People of Redid who work in a casino, what's some of the saddest moments you witnessed? There were these two middle-aged Greek or Cypriot ladies who were always on the slot machines. Every day when I started my shift they were there, and they were there when I finished 10 hours later. And still they're in the same clothes the next day oftentimes. They were super nice and always polite to the staff. One day they hit the jackpot and win big. I think it was either £15k or £45k. It was a good few years ago now. Everyone was overjoyed for them except the managers, obviously. Well, the managers then gave them free meals at the restaurant and an open bar tab until every single penny of that money was clawed back into the casino. Former valet at a casino. The amount of daily regulars who drove barely functioning vehicles full of trash, roaches, and rats who would actually valet their car and go gamble away any money they had to their name was honestly depressing. The saddest I remember was a 90-plus-year-old lady who drove a 91 Corolla, and when we got in her car we realized she had no power steering fluid at all and her steering wheel would barely turn. I have no earthly idea how her frail arms could turn it. We went and bought her some before she left that evening. Grandmother, mother, and daughter heading to the casino by car from 2 hours away. Mother had a postcard to get a free cast iron pan for showing up. Daughter is more than 8 months pregnant. 1 hour away from the casino, daughter starts to have labor pains. Mother won't stop and take her to the hospital. She's gotta have that $10 pan. They arrive at the casino an hour before the promotion was going to start. Mother raises all hell trying to get her pan, but the workers for the promo haven't arrived yet. Daughter ends up having to be transported by ambulance to the hospital. All over a $10 pan. I did casino security for 3 years before I became a police officer. Had a code M, medical, early one morning, around 4 or 5 am. Old guy in his 80s passed out and fell out of his chair, wife sitting next to him. I was the first to get to him, did a quick assessment and found he didn't have a pulse, immediately started CPR. The old lady looked over and said, "Oh, he does this all the time, don't worry about him," between chest compressions. I told her he wasn't breathing and she just kept playing her a lot machine. She didn't miss a spin even when the paramedics took him away. I saw her again the next night and asked how he was doing. With the straightest face ever, she said, "Oh, he never woke up. I'm sure he's in a freezer by now." And went right back to the same machine she was playing the night before. In general, people who come for the first time and are super nice and friendly, they don't care about winning or losing much, just came to have fun. They come back a few more times, then after a few years they are regulars that don't smile anymore, they don't laugh, they don't count their wins, just their losses, and sweat every comp point they earn and act like gambling is their job now and the focus of their life. I've seen more than one person have this happen to them. The other saddest thing is when a regular stops coming in and their spouse comes out and tells us they passed. We're almost family with some of our regulars and it hurts to get that news. A previous boss of mine worked at a casino in AC. He said he saw all kinds of terrible things, but the worst was when they had to close the main lobby cause a guy jumped from the 4th floor after losing. Jesus, how much did he lose? His balance for sure. During my 8-hour shift, a gentleman won $15,000 on a slot machine. Punched out at end of shift and had the next 2 days off. Returned to work after my weekend to find the man still sitting at the same slot machine. He had been there for 2+ days losing $15,000. It's not the big things, it's the little things. You see someone rocking 3 machines at 9 am on a Tuesday? They have places they ought to be, not in this casino. Thanksgiving, Christmas, hell, even Mother's Day, places slammed. Go home, people. We had to evacuate and close down for the rest of the day due to a burst pipe causing no running water. When I walked outside there was an elderly lady throwing a legit tantrum in the parking lot. She was on the ground kicking and screaming. Her scream sounded like something you'd expect from someone who just lost a family member, not someone who had to leave the casino for a few hours. I left, but some of the security who were dealing with her told me later she was too upset to drive home and they had to call a family member to pick her up. I've seen some shit. A lot of what others have commented is fairly common, but this was definitely the most messed up. My mom works as a dealer at a casino and has told me multiple stories of grown men wearing adult diapers at the table so they don't have to leave to use the restroom. As a Vegas regular, I can attest it is orders of magnitude worse when they do not wear the diapers. A bit late since there's been so many comments, but nevertheless I got something. Not a worker, but had an uncle addicted to gambling. Worst thing that happened was he used all of his money, lost his job from it, begged for more money, which led to him going to the casino again to spend it. Then he went homeless, and any money there went to gambling again. A vicious cycle where he slept on park benches and spent any dime on gambling at the nearest casino. Found out all this one day when he walked by my house with a huge beard, looking like he hadn't showered or eaten in a long time. Good ending. Eventually his mom, my grandmother, took him back, and when he begged for a place to stay, I now live with him. He works a full-time job with nice pay, and doesn't drink or gamble anymore. Not the best at managing his money at times, but it's safe to say he's far from where he started. Not a casino worker, but I had to assist someone with the aftermath of a casino binge, in my job in insurance, of all things. Early in my career, I worked for a small town insurance agency. Had a call one day from a man who needed to add a lien holder to his and his wife's cars, which has previously been paid off. The name was one of those skeevy loan places, so obviously something has gone wrong. Dude proceeds to tell me that he and the wife, though in reality, it could have just been him, had gone to the casinos, spent too much, and he had to take out a loan with the cars as collateral. And he wanted to make sure his wife didn't find out. Would we be mailing anything about this? Could we not? Had to tell him that the insurance company was required to mail out updated deck pages, and there was nothing I could do to stop that, so his only chance would be to beat her to the mail. God, I hope she beat him to the mail, and nailed him to the wall. I worked at a casino as a dealer through college. A lot of incidents were pretty sad, especially with regulars that you liked. One regular would tell me about his middle school age kids, and then I would realize the next week or so later that he was missing their school plays, recitals, etc. because he was at the tables. I remember working an overnight one Christmas Eve and begging him to go home when 6/7 am rolled around because his kids would be up and opening presents. Other times just people screaming at you for stealing their mortgage payments from them that month. Then seeing them back again the next day. I don't work in a casino, but live near Atlantic City. Seeing unattended children playing near the entrance to the casino floor where children aren't allowed. You brought your kids to a casino where kids aren't allowed, and just left them in a hallway. I went to a casino for the first time a few years ago with a group for my mother-in-law's birthday. There were signs everywhere stating that it is a crime to leave children unattended in your car in the parking lot. Pretty ducking sad. Parents used to own a small casino, 15-ish tables, $100 limits. I worked weekends in the cage. Employees were allowed to gamble once off shift, and I watched one guy, after getting off of work around 7 p.m., proceed to lose his house payment, car payment, child support, max out his credit cards, everything by the time we closed at 6 a.m. I wasn't a huge gambler before that, but seeing that firsthand scared me off of taking any chances in a casino beyond casual playing. Atlantic City around 20 years ago, one of the 3 times I tried gambling in my life. Saw an elderly couple crying while talking to a security guard. They were telling him they had no money to pay the tolls to get home. I remember thinking the security guard was a real asshole, no emotion on his face as he told them they had to leave the casino. After they left though, he announced to everyone who had stopped to listen that the casino had already given them money to get home, which they had turned around and gambled away, putting them back at square one. I don't know what was worse, seeing an elderly couple cry, seeing this dude just jaded by his terribly necessary job, or just seeing that side of gambling. I'm grateful I was never bitten by that bug. Not a casino but a charity poker room at a bowling alley where I was a dealer. Guy was pretty drunk and just so bad at poker. Kept losing the max buy-in, $300, and would go straight to the ATM and rub I. With every rabouille the desperation became greater and greater. I just wanted to tell him to pack it up before he lost more, but that would have probably cost me my job. Eventually I think he must have emptied his bank account. I had never seen someone lose so much money in one night. I was on a cruise when I was 18. First time gambling on a casino and learning a little blackjack. I was at the $10 minutes, I think max was $300, table and was betting the minimum each hand. The guy across the table was drunk and betting the max each hand. I watched him split, double down, and lose over and over and over. He just kept making stupid calls and must have lost $20k in about 15 minutes. Don't work in a casino, but I go to a smaller casino here in Vegas where a lot of locals go to play. Lady hits 40k on a keno game. After she got paid out she was walking around giving all her friends and people she chats with $100 bills. I left shortly after because I just go to buy smokes and play my change here and there, so I'm not sure if she played more that night. About a week later she was in there playing every time I went in to buy smokes, so I'm sure that money disappeared quickly. Not a casino, but volunteered at a local fireman's carnival bingo night. 20-something lady was playing quarter per game bingo with roll after roll of silver quarters. I tried explaining to her that they were worth more than a quarter and she didn't care and kept playing with a look of desperation in her eyes. Never won a game that night. In my mind, she was blowing through a coin collection that her parent or grandparent had carefully put together. Not a casino employee. My story comes from my time in the military. Slot machines are everywhere in Germany. The small post I was on had a few slot machines in a back room of the bowling alley. One of our uncos would go every payday and blow his entire paycheck over lunch. We would know if he won or not by the mood he was in after lunch. When he won he would tell us about winning $600 after dropping $1,500 into the machine. There was a regular poker player at the casino I used to work at a few years ago. Let's call him Mike. Mike was one of the sweetest regulars we had. He was always kind, even when he lost his ass. Polite, tipped well, friendly with everyone, just a dream customer. One afternoon he was sitting in the poker game and a lady who none of us had ever seen before comes up behind him and smacks him across the back of his head. She starts screaming at him, "You lost our houses. What are you doing?" ? You've lost everything and you're still here. The whole casino has frozen at this point and everyone is staring. Mike grabs a rack from under the table, puts his chips in it, and heads to the cage without saying a word or making eye contact with anyone. As Mike is cashing out, the lady, who we can safely assume is his wife, starts yelling at everyone in the casino. "You're all sick. What's wrong with you? You sick people all need help." Eventually they left, Mike with eyes staring at the ground and his wife right behind, yelling the whole way. That was 3 years ago. The man played every day for over a decade. We never saw him again. My wife worked at the gift shop of a casino a few years back. From the store you could see the majority of the main floor. She noticed a guy sitting at a slot machine for the majority of her shift and he was still there when she went home. She comes back in the following morning and the same guy is still there playing. A few hours go by and he leaves and goes to the bathroom. Not 30 minutes pass until there's managers and EMTs rushing to the bathroom. Turns out the guy had lost all of his money and savings on that machine and decided to slit his wrists in the bathroom. The whole thing really shook her up for a few days after it all happened. I work with the cage in my local casino. This guy, who has DR in his salutation, lost so much money, couldn't pay, got sued for debt collection, bankrupted and ended up having to pay $300 a month. The last I counted a few years ago, he will need to pay for at least 133 years before he will finish paying everything with that monthly payment plan. Also some old ladies men asking us for money to just take the bus home early in the morning because they lost all their money overnight. My boss never agrees but instead offer to call their relatives for them to pick them up. Working in a casino really puts me off gambling. WTH real money. Not me but my friend was a blackjack dealer. They are encouraged to kick people out if they think they have a gambling addiction. Some people have special cards that say they have an addiction and ask to be cut off from gambling after a certain amount of time. Anyway, my friend saw a very old lady come in and she was feeding just stacks of $100 bills into a slot machine, betting all lines and losing all this money. This lady kept at this for a while and my friend got concerned because it was a lot of money. So my friend finally has a break and approaches this lady and asks what's going on since it looks like she's just purposely losing money. The lady explains that she's in bad health and her family has been fighting over who she is going to leave her money to in her will, so she cashed out all of her money and was purposely losing it all to spite her family. She figured she lost $40,000 already into slots that day. Guy hit a jackpot for $30K. In my area that is life-changing money. He was supposed to go see his son in a different state. He went to a different casino and lost the jackpot and then some. He didn't go see his son. He didn't go to the job that he makes 2-3K a week at. He stayed at the casino for a week and lost his job. He lost his truck that he was sleeping in. IDK, what happened to him after he was evicted for sexually harassing any woman that walked past him. Edit, it should be 2-3K a month, not week. Sorry. Didn't work in the casinos but sad story. When I was in college, I worked at Target. The security guard there was a nice man, but whenever he talked about going to the casinos he seems a little too excited, like it was Christmas whenever he would go. I was the manager for the front end, so he and I would talk a lot because he would accompany me as I grabbed all the cash at night so I wouldn't get mugged. That's all he talked about. He went to the casinos about 3 times a week. He was in his early 50s and still lived at home. Being a security guard at Target, in your 50s and living with his mom told me enough. He probably had a gambling addiction and lost a lot. A few months later he stopped coming into work. Found out, he finally lost it all and killed himself. I don't work there, but I was at a table in a casino in Vicksburg, MS, playing Texas Hold'em, when a man took a chair next to me with a hospital bracelet on. Seems that many of the people at the table were regulars, and congratulated him on his son's birth that had just happened. He was at the tables to earn some money to help pay for the baby, and lost around $300 over the next hour, and went home empty-handed. Personally, the saddest part to me is that he was there in the first place. An employee of a casino once told me that the reason they use leather instead of cloth chairs is that when people have lucky slot, they won't get up to go to the bathroom. That's pretty sad too. I played poker seriously for a while, which I guess is kind of working at a casino. One night at a cash game there was a guy who said he was in town alone for his 30th birthday. He was drunk and obviously miserable and lonely, and kept going broke and buying in for another $300. It is very much against the poker player's code to do anything to stop someone from donking off that much money, but our table had a little intervention with him, trying to talk him into just going to a strip club. I don't work at a casino, but I have family that are farmers in a rural part of my state where a casino was built on an Indian reservation. Many of my family's neighbors bet and lost their entire farms. And my great uncle and his neighbor had purchased a very expensive piece of farm equipment together that they shared that ended up being repossessed because of the neighbor's gambling. My uncle was out thousands and was hissed. I know I'm late to the party, but I have one that has stuck with me. 5-year employee at a casino, an older couple, 60s, would come in 5-7 nights a week. The casino term is they are avid experienced players, addicted. She would go upstairs to play slots and he would play cards downstairs. A sizable group of executive level casino employees made their way to her machine and asked her to have a quick word in private. She refused to leave the machine. They attempted again to ask her to speak in private, but she very forcefully declined to leave. She demanded to know what they wanted, so one of the members let her know that her husband had a heart attack and he was being rushed to a nearby hospital. Her response: "Give me his wallet," and went back to the machine. Broke my heart, even when I think about it more than a decade later. He died that night. She didn't leave until the next morning. Going to take this in another direction despite how sad it is. Been in the business for 10 years. My first casino had a racetrack as well, and it was Kentucky Derby weekend, always one of the busiest. It was hot as hell that Saturday and I was a 6 p.m. start. We had to park in an overflow section so valet could use the normal employee parking area. I was walking towards the employee entrance with a few other dealers and we heard a couple dogs barking. After a quick look around we found an SUV with its windows up and these yellow labs barking their heads off. What kind of dickbag leaves their dogs in their car on this kind of day to go gamble? We all looked at each other, but one of the dealers was already on the phone to security with a look like he could heal someone. I worked in Pennsylvania where the state police has an office on site at every casino. They were out to meet us in less than 5 minutes. They surrounded the vehicle and waited for the dogs to approach one of them. Once the dogs were towards the back of the vehicle, one of the troopers took out a club and smashed the driver's window. They unlocked the doors and got the dogs out. Once the dogs were clear they proceeded to break all of the other windows as well. By the time I hit the floor I already started hearing stories about what had happened. Some being even more exaggerated than what I saw but close enough to the truth. As far as the owners, they were pulled off the blackjack game they were playing and arrested. If you are arrested for any crime at a casino in PA you are placed on the state's exclusion list and cannot enter a PA casino ever again or will be charged with trespassing. My mom works at a casino. She has seen many Chinese gamblers missing fingers, a regular dying at the table, a regular cheating himself and sitting in his own filth in the table for a long time before workers figured out that's where the foul smell came from. Many casino workers are addicts as well. They don't leave the casino after work. I had a high school classmate who is super smart and was going to Stanford. He was surprising my mom and speaking our local dialect to her and telling her he knew me. My mom and I look almost the same, that's how he recognized her. My mother was like, I never wanna see you back here again. She apparently said it to many young men who were nice and polite and just started gambling. He hasn't come back, but he continued gambling in a casino a stone throw away from my mother's. Later I found through a mutual friend that he doesn't even have a car. I mean, this guy is pretty damn smart and even he lost everything. I work in a nation casino. I watched an old lady about mid-60s shuffle in for the 5th day in a row wearing the same exact clothes she'd been wearing for 5 days. I saw her leaving while on a smoke break and she headed to an old, decrepit minivan with dents and a sheet of plastic covering a busted out window. It was a mixture of sadness and pity to watch. I don't work at a casino, but one of my friends left his job to pursue happiness elsewhere, but after a few months he couldn't afford nothing but a pack of smokes, but he came into $1,000 rather than paying off some massive bills. He put $500 into online poker. After 5 hours he racked up about $35k and was sending us pictures and videos of how excited he was. Then suddenly nothing. We didn't see him for a few days, but he showed up one night all quiet and after a while mentioned he ended up losing it all trying to make more, but was in a good mood saying he got a job at a convenience store. Not me, but my wife worked graveyard shift in security at a casino for a bit when we first got together. She told me about a regular that was at her normal slot machine all day before her shift and then her full shift. She went home, slept, came back the next night and the woman was still there. By the next morning she went up to the woman because she didn't bet anything for a few hours and was just sitting there not moving. Yeah, she dead. Ducked up thing was my wife just took it like a normal day until a few days later when it really hit. That was over 10 years ago at this point, but still remember her telling me that morning when she came home. One day they were testing the fire alarms without warning. Instead of running them only back of house, they triggered the entire property. Emergency fire doors went down, alarms blared, automated intercom telling people to find the nearest exit. Nothing. Not a soul left their machine table. This is from a casino in Southern California where wildfires can break your exit route out in the middle of nowhere. Never worked in one. But I grew up in Las Vegas with a mother who worked in casinos my entire life. I would sometimes have to go to work with her. And I would wander the front desk area and see people have breakdowns, begging for money, etc. I remember a preteen walking around looking for his mom. Finally found her and was begging her to leave so they could get food. She gave him a $5 and told him to leave. I was also the kid that watched her mom gamble away food money regularly. It was a common thing to hear, but I can end this $20 into $100 and then we would have nothing but peanut butter for a week. As an adult I noticed a lot of financial things that just never made sense. Now I see it was probably her trying to turn a $20 into a $100. But getting me shoes? Can't do that. Getting my brother cloths? Can't do that either. As a kid I didn't understand. As an adult I feel betrayed. My girlfriend's cousin used to work at a casino, and she told us this story. She saw a guy win a $10,000 jackpot. She approached him to congratulate him and ask what he was going to spend the money on. The guy explained to her how he was $30,000 in debt from gambling, and how he planned on using the $10,000 to win his money back. I don't work at a casino, but I have seen some things because I live in a casino town. At the local casino I know people who will go to the casino, stay there all day and night, and go to work and never even bother to shower or change their clothing, and this is what they do day after day. They come to work at their regular job in the same clothing day after day. The casino workers tell me that they will finish their shift, then they will come in for the next shift, and the same person that was there during the previous shift is still there sitting at the same table, even after the worker has slept the night and is ready for the next day's work.